Hello and welcome. I'm Asuma Katauka and you are watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories. Putin and Iraqi Prime Minister expressed concerns over global energy stability amid escalating Iran-Israel conflict. As per Kremlin, while Israeli forces struck IRGC headquarters and power systems in Tehran. Meanwhile, an Israeli minister posted "Viva la Libertad" with a video of prison blast, according to media reports. President Vladimir Putin told Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in Moscow that there was no justification for the US striking on Iran, adding Russia is trying to help the Iranian people, according to media reports. Russian strikes on Kyiv killed 8 people and injured dozens, including 7 in the capital and 1 in the region, according to Ukrainian officials. Meanwhile, Zelensky has landed in the UK to meet Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and Russia claims to have hit Ukrainian military targets. Hungary and Slovakia have blocked the EU's 18th sanctions package against Russia over energy import plans, with Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó and Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico citing reliance on Russian gas and oil, according to a social media broadcast statement. Oil prices dipped briefly as markets await Iran's response to US strikes, while the IAEA sought access to Iran's nuclear sites amid concerns over highly enriched uranium. According to media reports, Iran's parliament backed closure of the Strait of Hormuz. South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung appoints AHN Gyu-bak as the country's first civilian defense minister in 64 years, amid Middle East crisis and post-martial law reforms, according to media reports. Paris Olympics and Paralympics have costed French taxpayers nearly 6 billion euros, says national audit body. Meanwhile, France to deploy military aircraft A400M to evacuate nationals from Israel, according to media reports. Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba plans to cancel his NATO summit trip, a source says, as key meetings with the IP4 and President Trump are unlikely. Japanese media reports the move reflects growing doubts about the summit's regional engagement plans. Greece deploys 170 plus more firefighters to Chios as wildfires rage for the second day now. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Mitsotakis condemns Damascus church attack that has killed 22 people, according to reports. In the latest turn of events in the US-Iran conflict, the Israeli military reportedly carried out strikes on routes leading to the Fordo uranium enrichment facility, a long-time target in the region. Israeli military struck Revolutionary Guard sites in Tehran today, coordinating closely with the US forces. Let's listen in to the Israeli military spokesperson's statement.
אנחנו ממשיכים לפגוע ולשלול את יכולת שיגור וייצור הטילים של המשטר האיראני. ברגעים אלה, מטוסי חיל האוויר מעמיקים את הפגיעה במרחב טהרן, בדגש על מפקדות של משמרות המהפכה.
Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baghei stated Iran's position following the US attack on nuclear sites. Let's hear his latest comments.
ما اجازه نخواهیم داد هیچ موضوع حاشیه‌ای دیگری تمرکز ما رو در دفاع از ایران عزیز بگیره. اونچه که الان مد نظر ماست دفاع جانانه از کیان ایران و دفع شر دشمنی است که با بهره‌مندی از حمایت آمریکا و برخی دیگر از کشورهای اروپایی جنگ ناعادلانه ای رو علیه این سرزمین.
Israeli airstrikes also have targeted Tehran's Evin Prison, damaging sections of the facility, according to Iran's judiciary. The Mizan online website reported that parts of the infamous prison were hit. Israel's defense minister confirmed the strikes, explaining that military action focused on key command centers of Iran's Revolutionary Guard and security forces. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin condemned the attacks as unprovoked and unjustified during a meeting with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, but did not offer direct support. Global markets have reacted nervously to the developments, with oil prices fluctuating and stock markets wobbling. Analysts are watching closely for any response from Iran, particularly concerning the Strait of Hormuz, a key shipping route for oil. European stocks have dropped and Asian markets show mixed results as the situation continues to evolve. Now we have guests joining us for this discussion, Ali Hamedani. He's a British-Iranian correspondent joining us live from London. Ali, thank you for joining us today and welcome to NewsX World. How is Tehran responding to these latest strikes, both officially and on the streets?
Like they have responded over the past couple of days. I mean, they keep threatening the Israeli state that they are going to attack, but the fact is, the truth fact from the field is basically they are not capable of any kind of retaliation, meaningful retaliation, although under state media, radio and television, they keep saying we are attacking this target, we are attacking that target, but so far we know the targets that they have managed to launch missiles to were mostly civilians. They were talking about targeting the Ben Gurion airport in Tel Aviv, but and over the past 11 days, they have been saying that they have targeted the main Israeli airport many times, but as far as we know, that is not real. From inside the country today, as far as the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, claimed that they have attacked many symbolic places, such as where they were basically involved in suppressing people and freedom movement of Iran. Places like, as you said, the gates of the infamous Evin Prison was targeted, not the prison itself, because as far as we know, hundreds of political prisoners are locked up in Evin Prison. So what they did, the Israeli air defense and airstrike did, actually, they targeted the gate and also an administration building to show, as they claim, some sort of support for the Iranian civil society. Also, there were reports of one countdown display, which was planted in central Tehran, counting down to the day that Israel is going to be removed from the international maps. They also targeted that. Also, there were reports that they have targeted Basij headquarters. Basij is one of the main suppression forces supported by the IRGC, targeting civilians, citizens, for what they were, what they do, what they say, especially online. That is the place which the infamous morality police takes order from. So these are so symbolic, but I'm not saying these explosions were narrowed down to only, although they were narrowed down to target these symbolic places, but because of the wave of explosions, of course, there are so many people reportedly were scared. They are in the streets. There were footage of rebels all over the city. Also, the smokes. When I was literally minutes ago, I was watching a clip which came from Iran, showing the city under the thick layer of smoke. It was really horrifying to see the city that I know really well and I was born in under attack. But the reality is, the Israeli government says, as far as Iran wants to show any kind of retaliation, keep targeting, especially civilians in Israel, they will keep going after the regime. One of the points is, Iran is also, the Islamic Republic is also losing the battle when it comes to propaganda, because nobody takes them seriously anymore, especially inside the country. Whenever they put out a statement, especially video statements by the IRGC, people are making laugh at them. This morning, there was a statement in Arabic, Persian, and English, but neither Arabic or English, nor English were understandable, because basically the officer who was reading off a script couldn't speak proper English.
Okay, Ali, you will stay with us. Now we have a breaking news. Local media outlet from Tehran, Iran, the Tehran Times, is reporting an attack on the headquarters of Iran's Handball Federation. According to the report, one worker has been injured in the Israeli attack on the building. Now we have another breaking news. Russian President Vladimir Putin has met Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi earlier today in Moscow amid the ongoing conflict between Tehran and Tel Aviv. Putin reiterated Russia's stand on the attack on Iran and said Iran has been attacked without pretext. He also said that Middle East conflict is moving the world to the very dangerous line. Let's listen into more of what he had to say on the Middle East conflict.
Неспровоцированная абсолютно агрессия против Ирана не имеет под собой никаких оснований и никаких оправданий. С Ираном давние, добрые, надежные отношения.
روابط ما با ایران سوابق طولانی و خوب داره.
Мы со своей стороны предпринимаем усилия для того, чтобы оказать содействие иранскому народу.
Now moving on to our guest discussion with Ali Hamedani. He's a British Iranian correspondent. Ali, what is your reaction with the news that has just come in, and is there also a divide between the Iranian people in support of Iranian regime and what they say or what they announce within the country?
Am I right to hear that you quoted Tehran Times for that report?
Yes. Yes.
So Tehran Times is a pro-regime state media. So whenever there's a news break coming out of state media, I always have my doubt because I really need to fact check because state media turn to be propaganda machine of the Iranian regime. They are trying to say the Israelis are attacking civilian targets, non-military targets, and I really am suspicious when it comes to the Iranian state media. As I said, Iranian state media also say the Iranian IRGC, Revolutionary Guard, is targeting many military targets in Israel, but none of them were basically verified and approved to be true by international independent media and also independent sources. So when it comes to Tehran Times and media like that, I always am skeptical because they are pro-regime. Over the past couple of days, the pro-regime media, especially Tehran Times, as you just mentioned, are trying to basically dominate this narrative that the Iranian non-military bases targets have been attacked by the Israelis. But it is very difficult because to verify these news when it comes to when they come from the state media. And the reality is, Iran doesn't let free press to operate inside Iran. International journalists are not able to travel to Iran freely and try to report freely. That is one of the main obstacles. Also, international watchdogs like the UN cannot operate freely inside Iran. So we really do not know what's going on inside Iran when such report comes out. But many people are happy, at least have been happy over the first initial days after the attack, because they thought this could be an opportunity for them to basically to overthrow the regime. But of course, there are people who are saying a war cannot bring democracy to Iran. But I really want you and your audience to pay attention to what I'm going to say now. We observed so many wars over the past 2 years. Just look at Ukraine and Russia. When Russia invaded Ukraine, we have seen thousands, hundred thousands of Ukrainian men who wanted to join the army, who wanted to defend their country. But over the past 11 days, there was no one single report coming out of even state media saying that, okay, this bunch of youngsters, people want to do something to defend the country. And this is the direct result of this understanding by the people that this war is not about the people of Iran. This is a war between the Israeli state and Islamic Republic of Iran. Islamic Republic of Iran has lost credibility over the past many years. We all know the Iranian regime basically was born out of the slogan, "Death to Israel." And many people are saying they planted so much hate and now they are getting back the hate they planted.
And Ali, now we have just seen that Russia is backing Iran, and how much Russia is going to back Iran in international levels in the face of this the conflict, and also what are your reaction towards the comments made by Russian leader Putin that he said there's no justification on the attack on Iran, and also that Russia is towards or working for the people in Iran?
I think Putin is a very good I mean, at least this is what the Iranian leaders think these days, that Russia and China are the only friends for the Iranian state. And they keep saying that the Iranian authorities are saying that they are relying on the Russian support and Chinese support. But as far as we know and the history shown, Russia is not a good friend of any neighbors. Basically, that country is going to protect their own interests. And at the moment, we know that Russia is trying to get closer and closer to President Donald Trump and the US, aiming to basically lift some sanctions and start doing some trades with the world. As far as we know, it has been years that they are involved in the war in the Ukraine, and we all know that that didn't bring anything to Russia but sanctions and more isolation. And I highly doubt President Putin wants to be even more isolated in the international community when it comes to another war supporting Iran.
And with the Iraqi Prime Minister also expressing concern in the region, and also the rhetoric of US saying that the same could happen what happened with earlier Saddam Hussein. What is your reaction on that?
I mean, Iraq is, of course, a friend of Iran these days, but also a good friend of the US. The Iraqi state cannot live without the US international development helps. And we know that the US military has several bases in Iraq. I understand when Iraqi government shows support for Iranians because they literally want to avoid any kind of attempt by the Iranian regime to target any military bases of the United States in Iraq. And also, Iraqi government is well aware of the fact that Iran, using their proxy groups, proxy military forces or paramilitias they are supporting, could destabilize the state of Iraq. So that's why when it comes to these kind of wars, they always try to show some sort of at least support by releasing statement. But the matter of the fact is, all of these governments and the Iran neighbors, such as Iraq, Saudi, Qatar, UAE, Bahrain, and Kuwait, and Oman, are good friends of the United States. They are not good friends of the Iranian regime. They are trying to be good neighbors, but
we seem to have a technical issue here. Thank you very much, Ali Hamadani, for joining us all the way from London. Now we move on to our next story. Russia launched a deadly wave of drones and missiles on Ukraine overnight, killing at least 8 civilians, most of them in the capital, Kyiv. In one residential block, explosions tore through the building, throwing people from their beds, windows shattered, and smoke-filled homes across the city. Here's what one of the locals and spokesperson for the State Emergency Service of Ukraine had to say.
Був отбой, а потім різко знов тривога. Я вже проснулася, не спала. Вийшла в туалет, коли зайшла в кімнату, чую, що летить. Розумію, що прямо над нами. І тут зразу вибух, воно буквально стіплить. Це, звісно, жах. Помню, зразу волною відкинула до дверей. Тут вікна полетіли. Сьогодні внаслідок нічної атаки рятувальники у столиці працювали на 15 локаціях. Наразі рятувальники працюють на 2 локаціях. Це та локація і цивільна інфраструктура. Загалом зараз залучено на 2 локаціях 400 чоловік особового складу, а також 100 одиниць основної та спеціальної техніки.
Ukraine's Interior Ministry said 7 people died in Kyiv and 1 in Bila Tserkua, just outside the capital. President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia used 352 drones and 16 missiles, some reportedly supplied by Iran and North Korea. He warned this growing alliance of Moscow, Tehran, and Pyongyang poses a wider threat to neighboring nations. As the strikes continued, Zelensky arrived in London for high-level talks with British leaders, including Prime Minister Keir Starmer and King Charles. He's also meeting military trainees and pushing for more defense support ahead of this week's NATO summit in The Hague. Meanwhile, Moscow claims its precision strikes targeted Ukrainian defense facilities, but images from Kyiv show homes, not weapons, reduced to rubble. Russia also said it downed 23 Ukrainian drones over its western regions. Ukraine insists its counter-strikes are proportional responses to Russia's attacks on civilians. Peace talks remain stalled, and as the war nears its third year, the road to resolution looks more distant than ever. Now we have guests joining us for this discussion, Dr. Sergei Dvoryanov. He's a president of IDC Russia and director of WHD International Board, joining us live from Moscow. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to NewsX World. How does Russia justify striking residential blocks in Kyiv? Is there any military objective that warrants these civilian casualties?
First of all, regarding the killing of civilians, we should receive some real approval of this information. All conditions of our country to remove this Nazi movement inside Ukraine, which is not acceptable according to the international law, especially this year, year of celebration of jubileum of the Great Patriotic War, 80 years back, we was defeat this Nazi movement inside Europe, and we, thanks to God, we save all our human civilization. That it was a big contribution of our nation. And right now, of course, we should take care about this is our responsibility, our historical mission.
And do these attacks reflect a shift in Russia's strategy from military targets to urban pressure campaigns?
Yes, but see, the conditions to bring peace to Ukraine is very, very simple. We always announce it. First of all, we should prepare some agreements that Ukraine will never join to NATO. Second condition is very important. Ukraine should be has some special state, not military state and position. And second, very important condition: we should remove all Nazi movement inside Ukraine. We should allow to all Russian-speaking population to be a part of the citizens of Ukraine. Our Russian language should be allowed and legal exist in the political system inside Ukraine. It's very simple condition. And also, right now, we can see that President-elect Zelensky, ex-president, former president, he was not re-elected again. And that's why it should be a very legal election inside Ukraine, where the next politician, next political leader, very responsible leader, should be appear on the stage and take care about the future of Ukrainian nation.
Thank you, Dr. Sergei, for joining us today. Now we move on to our next story. After an emergency meeting held by the UN's nuclear threat watchdog, International Atomic Energy Agency, Iran's permanent representative to the United Nations, Reza Najafi, has stated that that the IAEA is no longer functioning effectively, and that Iran will continue to undertake necessary, resolute, and proportionate measures to neutralize it at the time, place, and manner of its own choosing, in line with its right to self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter. These developments come as the IAEA chief Rafael Grossi repeats the UN's demand for access to Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium amid mounting pressure from international leaders to dismantle Iran's nuclear program entirely. Here are some excerpts from the Iranian envoy's statement following the meeting.
Present situation has reaffirmed the troubling reality that the IAEA and broader non-proliferation regime established under the NPT is no longer considered functioning effectively by some in upholding its foundational objective and legal responsibilities. The recent unlawful act of aggression has delivered a fundamental and irreparable blow to the international non-proliferation regime, conclusively demonstrating that the existing NPT framework has been rendered ineffective in fulfilling its foundational objective. As long as the source of the threat persists, the Islamic Republic of Iran will continue to undertake necessary, resolute, and proportionate measures to neutralize it at a time, place, and manner of its own choosing, in full exercise of its inherent right to self-defense under Article 51 of the United Nations Charter.
Now we have guest joining us for this discussion, Jonathan Hoffman. He's a former Vice President of Zionist Federation of the United Kingdom, joining us live from London. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to NewsX World. Israel has long viewed Iran's nuclear program as an existential threat. Does this latest statement from Iran validate those concerns, according to you?
Yes, hello. This is absolutely an existential threat, which is why Israel and the United States have taken action to attack the centers of the Iranian nuclear industry. And particularly, I think the focus now is on, as the interview with the inspector said, the focus is on this 400 kilograms of enriched uranium enriched to 60%. The question is, has that been moved from Fordow, which was attacked by the Americans a few days ago, or is it has it been destroyed there? This is enough enriched uranium reportedly to make 9 nuclear bombs, and it's essential that that is found, essential that, of course, Iran allows weapons, the nuclear inspectors from the IAEA to come in and inspect. It won't allow that, I'm sure. So the question now is, has the job been finished? And you would have seen some sort of more questionable comments than came from Donald Trump. Donald Trump, president, says, yes, the job has been finished, but other spokespeople, for example, the president of the state of Israel, are less emphatic that the job has been finished, because we need to find out what's happened to this 400 kilograms of enriched uranium.
And according to you, Jonathan, what should Israel's military posture be now? Wait and defend, or strike first if a threat seems imminent?
Well, we have only limited news from Iran, as Ali Hamdani, your previous guest, said. We don't know exactly what's going on, but the stated aim of Israel is to completely neutralize Iran's ability to attack Israel. And that is what we think is happening still. It is not a question of an argument with the Iranian people. Israel has no argument with the Iranian people, and neither, I think, does the United States. The only imperative is to stop any further risk of attack on Israel. And let's remember, Israel is a tiny country, and the Iranians have threatened many times to wipe Israel off the map. You know, that threat has to be seen to be without foundation.
And Jonathan, Israel has long criticized the IAEA for not being tough enough on Iran. Does this moment prove that critique was valid?
Well, I think the weapons inspectors really, it's not really up to them to be tough. It's up to the Iranians to allow them to do their job. And over previous years, Iran has not allowed the weapons inspectors to do their job. There was a political agreement called the JCPOA, which was initiated by President Obama, among others, and Iran has violated that agreement consistently. So I don't think you can really blame the weapons inspectors, the IAEA, because they can only function if Iran allows them to function, and Iran has not allowed them to function consistently.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, for joining us today and bringing your expertise to our conversation. Now we have a breaking news. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte is set holding a press conference ahead of the NATO Leaders Summit in Netherlands. Let's cut across.
A stronger, a fairer, and a more lethal alliance. This will include a major new defense investment plan, ranging the benchmark for defense investment to 5% of GDP. A concerted effort to ramp up defense industry across the alliance, bringing not only greater security, but also more jobs. And a continued focus on support for Ukraine, alongside the pursuit of a just and lasting end to Russia's war of aggression. All of this is essential to keeping our 1 billion citizens safe. Let me now first say a word on Iran. When it comes to NATO's stance on Iran's nuclear program, allies have long agreed that Iran must not develop a nuclear weapon. Allies have repeatedly urged Iran to meet its obligations under the Non-Proliferation Treaty. On defense investment, in 2014, allies agreed to a benchmark of investing 2% of GDP in defense. And it is very good news that all allies will now meet that target this year. We started 2025 with several allies, 7, 8 allies, not meeting the mark. So we have made crucial progress in the last 5-6 months. But our security environment has changed, and not for the better. The threats we face today demand that we do far, far more to ensure we can effectively deter and defend. NATO has detailed defense plans in place. We know how to tackle the dangers that confront us. And we are committed to defending every inch of Allied territory, should any potential adversary make the mistake of attacking any ally. Based on those plans, allies have agreed an ambitious new set of capability targets, the specific, practical requirements that ensures that we can implement our defense plans. Having done this high-stakes homework, it is now clear what kind of investment it will take to effectively deliver what we need. And it is critical that each ally carries their fair share of the burden. The defense investment plan that allies will agree in The Hague introduces a new baseline, 5% of GDP to be invested in defense. This is a quantum leap that is ambitious, historic, and fundamental to securing our future. The new Defense Investment Plan is the key deliverable for this summit and will be decisive when it comes to ensuring effective deterrence in defense. The details of our plans are, of course, classified. But let me give you a few examples of what we will invest in. A 5-fold increase in air defense capabilities, because we see Russia's deadly terror from the skies over Ukraine every day, and we must be able to defend ourselves from such attacks. Thousands more tanks and armored vehicles, because even though warfare is changing fast, we still need to be able to protect our soldiers on the battlefield and to maneuver. And millions of rounds of artillery ammunition, because it is by having these stockpiles that we can deter aggression from any threat. As we invest more, it is crucial that we also produce more. At present, there is not nearly enough supply to meet our increased demand on either side of the Atlantic. For this, we need to work closely with industry, the major players that are the foundation of our defense industrial base, as well as the newer players that will help as we innovate and ensure our technological edge going forward. It also means working together with our close partners, including Ukraine, the European Union, and our partners from the Indo-Pacific. We are already working on this. And tomorrow at the NATO Summit Defense Industry Forum, we will continue to see new orders and concrete cooperation to expand our defense industrial base. We are sending a clear demand signal. We need industry to respond, and we need industry to respond quickly. Because there is an urgent need, but there is also a tremendous upside to ramping up our defense production. Not only will we be more secure, but there is huge economic potential for our societies, including more jobs for our people. By investing more and producing more, we build a stronger NATO. The result is also a fairer NATO, as allies step up to ensure there is more equal sharing of responsibility for our shared security. As we become stronger and fairer, we will also demonstrate that while NATO is and will remain a defensive alliance, there should be no doubt about our ability and resolve to protect our nations and respond with resounding force should we be attacked. This is what it means to be a more lethal alliance. So as leaders begin together for the NATO summit here, this is our focus, ensuring that we have all we need to deter and defend against any threat. Of course, the most significant and direct threat facing this alliance remains the Russian Federation. Moscow continues to wage war against Ukraine with the support of North Korea, Iran, and China, as well as Belarus. We all want peace for the Ukrainian people and an end to the terrible war against them. Yet as work is ongoing in pursuit of a just and lasting peace, we must continue to make sure Ukraine has what it needs to defend today and deter in the future. Our support for Ukraine is unwavering and will persist. And we have, I can announce that now, new estimates showing that our European and Canadian allies have stepped up and have already pledged, where we originally would be able to announce a 20 billion over the first 3 months of this year. It is now, they will provide over 35 billion euros of additional security assistance to Ukraine for the year ahead. So in a couple of months, we went from 20 billion to 35 billion. And I think that is great news. So here in The Hague, allies will reaffirm our ongoing support for Ukraine. And we will be joined by President Zelensky and his team for a range of different meetings over the next days. We also have the opportunity to engage with our partners in the Indo-Pacific, with the leadership of the European Union, and with our citizens across the alliance through the NATO public forum that will kick off tomorrow morning. And with that overview, I look forward to your questions.
All right, we'll start here in the front row. This woman here all the way on the right.
Secretary General, thank you very much. I wanted to ask you, now that we see the United States directly involved in the conflict in Iran, are you concerned that that impacts their view of their obligations to NATO, that it perhaps pushes NATO further down the list of priorities?
I don't think so. Of course,